Welcome everyone to the What's New in eRIS webinar. My name is Brian Werblar. I'm the eRIS Support and Training Director, and I'm going to be taking you through what's new today. Items that we're going to cover in the data query portal within eRIS, we're going to talk about chart and table visibility of data, export options that are new in the data query, how you can now group tags together. From there, we'll go over to our Tag Plus feature and how you can now use a new tag lookup to see which tag pluses affect each tag. We'll talk about a new feature in eRIS called notification monitoring. This allows you to actually see the notifications that are going out from the eRIS system, and you can see if they were successful, they failed, and even resend them. From there, we'll go to the report builder. We'll talk about the chart data gaps functionality and some improvements we've made on that. And then ending out the webinar, we'll be taking a look at logbooks. We'll go over the logbook export feature, as well as the new logbook tagging feature. While the training or the webinar is going on, please feel free to ask questions. So you can always unmute to ask your questions as well as type them in the chat. So just switching my screen over here, you should see a web browser showing the eRIS system. What we're going to start out with is in data queries, the visibility functionality. When you're creating data queries in eRIS, you can see all the tag data that you add to it in both a chart and table format. And so originally what was added in is the ability to hide items from the chart, but there's now the ability to do both the chart and the table. So when you go into either your ad hoc query or to edit a query, and you edit a tag that's part of your data query, you'll now see these visibility options. So you can decide whether you'd want, by default, to hide something in a chart view or in the table, or you can do both. Running your query again, any of those default options that you've selected will then show up. So in my chart, my first tag here, I did put as hidden, so it'll be turned off by default. The user can still interact and turn that on as they need. And in the table, if a column or tag is hidden, it will just not show up in the table. So there's no option to turn that back on or off, but this does give you the flexibility to put that tag on the chart view, but not see the records in the table. These functions also apply to the data queries that are shown in dashboards. So if you are using the data query dashboard feature, any saved data query will inherit those properties and display them in your dashboard view as well. The next thing that's new in the data query portlet is export options. So the first option that you now have is the ability to export just the chart as an image by itself. Previously, the only way to get an image of the chart was to export to Excel, and sometimes that chart could be stretched or compressed. So you now have the functionality to choose just the chart, click on the export button, and it will download an image of that chart. I can then open up that image, and I have that file saved. The export of the chart also accepts the properties of which tags have been turned on or off. So it'll show those strike throughs in the legend and not display the taglines that you have selected. The next export option is in the Excel properties. Oh, I see there's a question. When you do an export to Excel, can you have it default to no chart? Yes, you can. So with the Excel options, you can now choose the option to include the chart in your export, include the chart but on a separate worksheet in the Excel file, or not to include the chart at all. So the two that were previously there was just include the chart or not. I'll show you the new option of to include the chart image on a separate worksheet. So again, just choosing that export options. The file will generate and then download. And you're able to view that information. With the chart on a separate worksheet, it'll be the first worksheet that pops up on, your data will be on the second, and the query information will be on the third. If you choose not to include the chart, you will just have two worksheets, just the data itself and then the query information. The other option of including the chart on the same tab as your data, your chart will show up the top. It'll have freeze frame so you don't miss it, and then you can still see the data below. You do have to still select not to include the chart. That is correct. So for the default export, it will include the chart by default. If that's something that you would like to be able to set that default property of, please let us know. That's something that we can always add as a portlet preference, so you can customize which options could show up there for everybody. The next thing that you have the ability to do in the data query portlet, just going to go to ad hoc here, is you can actually group tags together. So when you go to edit your tags, just going to turn these back on. There is now a new property about series grouping, and this allows you to type in any grouping name you want. Once you enter your grouping name, you can save that on your first tag, and then you can go to your next tags and you'll have that option to add it to your secondary grouping, or you have the ability to create new groupings just by typing in. The groupings are just for your one data query. They do not go across to multiple data queries, so they'll only appear in the drop-down list as set for that one query. By enabling the groupings when you run your data query, in the chart, those tags are now going to be grouped together, and you now have the flexibility to turn on and off individual tags or the entire grouping itself. So by using my groupings, I can turn off two tags at the same time. This functionality also carries over into the data query dashboard feature, so just giving you more options in your legend to help you with enabling and disabling the tags quicker as you're looking at information. Any questions on any of the new data query features within the eRIS system? For the visibility and the export options, those are available in eRIS 3.2.30 and up. For the tag grouping functionality, that's going to be available in eRIS 3.2.36 and up, and that'll be available on August 27th. The next thing that's new in the eRIS system is Tag Plus tag lookup features. In eRIS, the Tag Plus feature allows you to do things like merging, transforming, adding rules, limits, and rounding to your data. What can be difficult though is finding out when you have lots of Tag Pluses, which ones are applying to my tag. There is now a new drop down in here that allows you to select a tag to filter by. So the list is available of all the tags in your eRIS system, as well as you can start to type in any part of a tag's name or description to help filter your list. And when you select that tag, it will filter the tag pluses to show you any of them that would apply, whether they are enabled or disabled. So now you can quickly review which tag pluses would be taking effect and see the information that's being applied to it. This is just an ease of use improvement for those that are using Tag Plus, as we do understand it can be quite difficult when there's hundreds of Tag Pluses set up and trying to find which one's affecting that one tag. This improvement is available in eRIS 3.2.30 and up. Any questions on the Tag Plus tag lookup? The next new feature in eRIS we're going to talk about is notification monitoring. This is a new portlet in the eRIS system. This feature allows you to see all of the notifications that eRIS is sending out, whether it's through email or SMS messaging. You get a nice overview of the items that are being sent out, what's being sent, the type, whether it's successful or default, or sorry, successful or failing, and you can decide to filter these based on the dropdowns, and also includes printer options as well. You can see the date and time that these were sent out at, and when you go in to look at a message, you'll get the full details about it. So for messages related to your managed workflows, you'll see the full structure of the body and the email being sent. For emails being sent out with report attachments, you'll get just a different overview of the email, letting you know who it was sent to. If there's any issues, you'll know which addresses were invalid that it could not send to, whether it was delivered or not. And so if you have any problems, you'll be able to see that information as well. Another nice thing is if you do have problems where something doesn't get sent out or you don't believe you received it, you can come in here, you can click on the resend button, and it will resend that email out to those individuals with the attachments. And so you should see that go through, as well as you'll get the successful or the failure coming back so you know what's going on. Another option with this notification monitoring is you can actually change the email settings. This email settings button is only shown to administrator users by default, but in the portlet preferences, you are able to set which users or user groups should be able to email the settings. So you can add that permissions to other people. In the email settings, you'll be able to actually change your email server connection from the eRIS server. So if you do need to update any of that information, you can do that here. Any questions on the notification monitoring? This new feature is available in eRIS 3.2.30 and up. The next improvement that we've made is to Report Builder, specifically the chart block and data gaps. So when you're building out your reports and you add a chart to your report, there is an option on the left-hand side about showing data gaps. What will happen is anytime when you run your report and it sees that information is missing, it'll actually show a line break in your chart, and it can even show text showing you how big the data gap is. Previously, there was only one option for the entire chart to show data gaps or not, and a problem that you can encounter is if you had tags at different intervals, your lowest interval rate is what's used to determine gaps. So on my chart here, my blue tag, I'm only seeing the points show up faintly, and that's because I'm getting daily values, whereas my red line, I have hourly values. So while I do not actually have a data gap where I'm missing 1 day values here, it's not being displayed because the data gap function is using that smallest value. To help with that, when you're laying out your block, now on each tag, you'll have the option to either show the data gap using the default overall section or option that's been set, or you can now set per tag, should I show the data gap, or should I hide it? This will give you more flexibility and control to be able to see the lines in your charts, but still see data gap information, what's important to you. So with the changes I made there, I turned my 1 day's data gap off, so that way I'll see those lines drawing between the points to get a better visual, while I'll still see the data gap breaking on my hourly values if I was missing any. This improvement is available in eRIS 3.2.30 and up. Any questions on the report builder data gap functionality? The next improvement we're going to talk about is with the logbooks. This was mentioned previously, but a lot of people are not aware of this. There is now functionality to give you an export option in your logbooks. So there is a setup in the background where a report has to be installed and the export option has to be enabled, and it's for all your logbooks in your system. You cannot pick individual logbooks to enable it on. When it is enabled, when users have access to the logbook, so they'd have to have a viewer, operator, supervisor access, they will now see a download or export button in the right corner of the logbook search bar. Clicking on that gives the user a couple options to export the information into a PDF. By default, you're just going to get the final entries and for the entire date range that the logbook has set up. So if I just click export here, I'll get July 31st until August 14th. My report will be run, and they'll generate that PDF file that I can walk away with. Other options that the user has is you can choose to include the entry history. Doing so will show you all the edits, and you will see those strike-throughs on your PDF report. So now I get the information, but with all the changes that are made, and any changes will have that strike-through. The last option for the export is if you're applying any filtering. So I'm going to pick on aeration here. Oh, doesn't look like that was a good label, so I'll try another one. So we'll go with our wastewater option. This applies from the labels filtering, the text filtering, and the operators. But you can now choose to include your current filters that are set, and now your export will only contain the filtered entries that you're seeing here. So just giving you a nice flexibility with a built-in report and export option for your logbooks, so you do not have to make your own custom logbook reports, and to be able to display and filter the information accordingly. Any questions on the logbook export option? That option is available in eRIS 3.2.32 and up. And again, it does have to be enabled in the background. So if this is something you want to enable on your system, please reach out to the eRIS support team at support@erisdelivers.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. The next new feature that we're going to talk about is called tagging in logbooks. So this is not available right this minute. It will be available come August 27th. But you'll now have the ability when you're writing a logbook entry, if this is enabled, and so you can enable this per logbook, that you can now at a user, start to type in the user's name, select them, make the entry, and when the entry is created, it'll actually send out an email or an SMS to that individual letting them know that they've been tagged in the logbook. Oops. I just have to enter a time here. In the logbook, you'll show up with the adding that user's name, the full entry that's made. For the user that's getting the email, this email message is going to be changing, but they will be notified that they've been mentioned in the logbook, which logbook they've been mentioned in, by who, and the date and time of the entry, so they can go back and see it. But this can be a way to let people know what's happening by adding them, so that way they get that message to know. Otherwise, if you just want to add details about someone specifically in the logbook, you can do that now as well. For setting up the tagging, just in the logbook editor in your eRIS system, you're able to go into each individual logbook. On the general tab, you'll have a new option to allow user tagging. And when enabling that, then allows that @ symbol, and they just have to type in two characters to have it pull down the drop down. And it will only display users that have permissions to the logbook. So you won't have all the users listed in the drop down there for the entire eRIS system, just who has permissions to that logbook that you're going to @ somebody in. You can then select them, and then how they're notified can either be email or SMS. For those options to work, the eRIS server does have to be connected either to an email server to send out the email, or you have to be subscribed and connected to an SMS service that can then send that out. The other part that has to be set up is part of the user's account. They would need their email address filled in or their phone number for the SMS service. Any questions about the new logbook tagging? So here's a question. With tagging becoming available in logbook entries, would it be possible to tag a label? So a logbook entry will automatically affix a label if the entry contains the label text. That's not something that we have available today, Chris. If that's something that you're looking for, please send us an improvement email with the full details on that, and that's something we could possibly look at doing. Any other questions about the logbook tagging?
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just wonder, does this mean, like, for example, there are certain situations that management would like to be notified right away without having to look at the logbook? Does it mean that we can tag and send an SMS message from the logbook?
Correct. You would have
Okay,
to at the person in the comment to do
okay,
that. For the SMS to be sent, you would have to subscribe to an SMS service, and your
okay,
eRIS server has to be able to connect to it. And then the individual accounts that you want to message, their phone number has to be set up in their user account on the eRIS
okay.
system.
So it is simpler to use email than SMS?
Possibly, yes. By default, your account does have an email address with it.
Yeah,
And then again, eRIS would just have to be connected to an email server for the
okay,
emails to be sent out.
okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Those are all the new features of what is new in eRIS right now. Um, any questions about anything that we've covered today at all? If you do have any questions, oh, I see a message. Where can we see our current version? So on your eRIS system, usually it's on the administration tab. When you click on that, there is a release information portlet, and that will show you which version you're on. So my version's incorrect here just because it's a demo server, but you would see your up-to-date version number as well as the date that that version was published on. And then Sandra, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a question as well?
So if we have a tag that comes from our historian in million liters per day, are we able to convert it to liters per second in eRIS?
Yes, you can. So eRIS does have um, value conversion options.
Okay,
So there is a value conversion portlet. It's usually under your configuration or administration dropdown if it's been set up.
okay,
Uh, Once that's set up, when you're going to query your tags, either in data query or in the report builder,
mm-hmm.
you'll see a unit dropdown and it'll list the units coming from the database by default, and then you'll have your conversion options.
Okay, okay, I will try that. Thank you.
Lori, I see your message about will this webinar be available on YouTube like the others? Yes, it will. So we are recording it and we will have that posted later on. So you can always refer back to it. Don, I see your question. Are these new features the result of a LifeRay upgrade? No, they are not. So the LifeRay upgrade, that's going to be eRIS 4.0 coming out later this year. All the features that we're talking about today are just on minor version upgrades of the current eRIS system. So it'd be the current version of eRIS and the current version of LifeRay it's using to have those. Any other questions? If you do have any other questions about eRIS at any time, or you do have any improvements that you'd like to see changed, please contact the eRIS support team. We are here to help you. The easiest way to do that is just email support@erisdelivers.com, and the first available team member will be getting back to you. If there's no other questions, thank you very much for attending the What's New in eRIS webinar today. We appreciate your attendance and your time taking the time to see. Um, this video will be on YouTube as mentioned later on, so you can always refer back to it. And then you do always have the access to the eRIS support team with any questions. Have a great day. Oh, I see there's one more question. Will 3.215 be able to upgrade straight to 4.0? Yes, so any version of eRIS can go straight to the 4.0 version once that's released. So you don't have to be on a certain minor version to have that update applied once it's available. I'm going to stop the recording here. If there are